So this first one, I don't even know if it needs a trigger. I don't know. Like,
yeah, that's how I felt about mine. But you know what? It's like technically, like in life, a lot of things need trigger warnings.
I know we don't always get them.
So we don't know because my trigger could be.
It might, exactly.
Right.
That's where I'm at. So this one is like, it's a medical thing. So I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Am I the asshole for having a trashy piercing while pregnant? I'm having my first baby soon and my OBGYN is on vacation. I tried to make sure I had all my questions asked before she went out, but something came up this week and I figured I would just ask the on-call doctor. When I got to the clinic for my checkup, the nurse came in and after the usual, I asked if I could talk to the on-call doctor. She said they were running behind and might not be able to see me today. So she asked me what the problem was and said she could help or determine if I really needed to talk to the on-call doctor. Also worth noting, maybe, I don't remember ever talking with this nurse previously. I asked her what I should do about my CHP, which is a not safe for work area piercing I've had for 6+ years. She looked at me blankly, so I elaborated. She then kind of rolled her eyes and told me she wasn't getting the on-call doc to ask about that, and I would need to figure out what to do with my body jewelry on my own.
Is this where I think it is?
So a CHP piercing is a clitoral hood piercing.
Yes.
Okay. I told her I would really like to get the doc's take on it, so I was going to need her to ask or let me talk to the doctor. She went on the computer for a minute and typed a bit and then said that I need to just take it out, and that's what the clinic protocol said. I asked her if I could put a retainer in to keep it safe to replace it after birth, and she told me I should take the opportunity to, quote, let go of trashy piercings and leave it since I was becoming a mom. I was shocked.
That is rude.
When I told my friends about it, most of them were shocked too. But another friend who was studying to be a nurse said it was rude of me to make her uncomfortable and would be wrong of me to report her or anything because it's not her job to have to listen to unsolicited information about kinky stuff. And I was violating her consent in that conversation, which is something that happens too often to medical workers. With that context, I started wondering if I was the asshole. Should I have called my piercer instead? Was I out of line asking her such a personal question and pressing for an answer when she clearly didn't approve?
Okay. This is an interesting one. I don't think she's the asshole, and I think that the medical professional, that reaction was unprofessional and inappropriate. You shouldn't you should never shame your patients. And it's funny that you said, like, you preface this with, should there be a trigger warning? And yes, there should be, especially for me, because I hate going to the gynecologist. And I know this is an OBGYN, but like even just that acronym like triggers me. So it's kind of funny that you chose that, because like I was saying, my triggers may not be other people's triggers.
But this was your trigger.
This was my trigger. Like actually. I think that's such an inappropriate response. I've been shamed by a gynecologist.
Same.
And so
he wasn't a gyno, but same, like a doctor that looked at my vagina. So same.
Yeah, mine was a woman, and that was so, like, that stuck with me, and that was scarring, and that might play into why I'm like so traumatized by those doctors. But
probably.
In this case, like, to have that response, I'm sure you're navigating pregnancy and that can be scary enough. And this is supposed to be like a resource for you. And to feel like you asked a question that was out of line, you weren't exposing her to something kinky. You were exposing her to, first of all, that's a body part that involves the reproductive, like, body part that they're no stranger to that anatomy. And I don't know. I think that that's ridiculous. And she was just asking a question that's totally fair game.
I completely agree. The stuff that like I've encountered, like you don't know what you're going to encounter as a healthcare professional. Like I have patients come in that have just had a massive stroke and they need help, like nursing needs help changing them, wiping them. Like you don't know what you're going to encounter. And that's a body.
Yeah.
That is a body. That is someone's body. What they choose to do to it is none of your goddamn business.
Right.
That's that.
And
so you just treat them.
Yeah.
You treat them as the person that they are.
Right.
And you don't judge. That was so icky. Like that gave me the ick. That was just instantly like, who are you?
Right. And you know what? I've correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like they sexualized her piercing.
They did
and maybe,
completely.
And maybe it is a sexual piercing, but that wasn't up to them to do that. She didn't say like, I have this piercing for sexual purposes. She didn't say that. She just said, this is the piercing. This is where it is. And then they made it a kinky thing. Why is it a kinky thing? Nobody sexualized it.
No.
Until the medical professional did.
Exactly. It's not, it was so like the way she phrased it. Can I put a retainer in to keep it safe until after birth? Like the way that she talked about it was like medical grade talk.
It's body jewelry. Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey, I have this piercing on my clit. Like
for this, and
above my clit. Yeah. Like,
no.
It's so strange to me. No. And I would definitely report her. I think there's a lot of, like from my experience in healthcare, there's a lot of medical providers that go unchecked.
Yeah.
And I think this is fair. Like this is a very judgmental person that needs to be reprimanded a little bit.
I agree. I don't like that.
Yeah. One of the top comments, that's not how any of this works. If you don't want to hear about body parts, don't work in the medical field.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially that office.
Especially that field.
Make it make sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
Not the asshole. Your question was totally reasonable. And she sucks for implying that a piercing is somehow inappropriate for a mother to have.
Bingo. That's another thing I wanted to touch on. Yes, I totally forgot about that.
I think there's a lot of stigmatizations between piercings and motherhood.
Piercings and other things. But yeah, piercings, because that's what this thread is about. Like, why can't she have that piercing when she's a mother? I don't get it.
It's okay. Let me show you what it looks like.
Uh-oh. Okay.
No, it's like I feel like it's not.
You can just Google this?
Yeah. CHP piercing for anyone that wants to Google it themselves, because I will not be putting this one in the YouTube.
No.
In fear it gets demonetized. These ones are infected. These ones are infected. I will not show you that one. So it's this. It's like the little flap above.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, like maybe it rubs and provides like sensation.
Yeah, it must. I don't know enough about it.
I don't either. I wonder if Google will tell me.
Okay, let's find out, I guess. The more you know, people.
Yeah. Any glands or clitoral hood piercing can enhance pleasure for your partner by also creating slight stimulation against their genitals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so teach their own. I'm scared of getting anything pierced besides my ears. So like kudos to her for even like her.
Yeah.
She's got some big ovaries on her.
Yeah. But that's stigmatizing what a mother can and can't do or wear on their body. I don't know why entering motherhood means she must abandon this, like, especially something so private. The general public doesn't know that she has that pierced.
No idea. Also, I don't think a clitoral hood piercing is going to affect a watermelon coming out of her vagina.
Yeah. Well, you think she shouldn't remove it before labor? I think she should.
I would put like a tiny retainer in if it's like a barbell or something. Like it depends on what she has in.
Okay.
But again, this is a question that should have been left for the on-call doctor.
Yes.
That judgy.
It's a legitimate question.
This is a legitimate question. That judgy bitch-ass little nurse wouldn't give her the opportunity
if I were having
answered.
surgery and had a piercing that was in the way of that body part, I would not call my whatever you call them, piercer.
They're not a doctor.
I wouldn't call them. I'd call the doctor and be like, do I need to remove this for said MRI or whatever? Not call my person an ink monkey in Venice and be like, hey, like, I mean, maybe like use them as a resource. But if I want the official like medical grade answer, I'm going to go to the medical professional.
She did everything right.
Yeah.
She did everything right.
I agree.
But I think there is like a lot to be said about that, where there isn't a lot of knowledge on like piercings and stuff, where it's like up until recently, I thought like if you had your nipples pierced, you couldn't breastfeed. And so that's not true. You can take them out and you might.
Good to go.
You're good to go. So it's
not always though. I will say that some people, because I did research on it, but some people do have issues. But then again, it's a correlation causation thing. Like, well, did you have a prior pregnancy where you were able to breastfeed? Because if you don't have that data point, then you maybe were always going to have issues with or without a piercing.
Exactly. Your ducks might not be right from the get-go.
Exactly.
Maybe you're the exception, not the rule.
Correct.
So, yeah, I don't know. This one I'm like really really annoyed at the nurse. And like OP responded to that comment and was like, that was kind of my thought. Like, I guess it feels there is implied consent to talk about vaginas at the vagina
Yes.
doctor.
Wait, what? That shouldn't even be up for debate.
I think her friend got weird about it. The fact that her friend was like, you were violating her consent in that conversation by talking about kinky stuff.
It's not kinky. It's a piercing on a body part that is directly correlated to like where her baby's going to come out of.
Yeah.
What?
I don't understand. The friend is kind of weird. And like that happens all too often in medical workers. I personally, and this is my experience, and if you have had something like this happen where your consent as a medical worker has been violated, please comment and like tell me the situation because I genuinely want to know.
Yeah.
But as
That
I'm
is
like,
true.
as I'm racking my brain right now, like I haven't had an experience where my consent was violated. Unless someone's like trying to grab your ass or cop a feel, then maybe, but like I haven't experienced that. Like nothing a patient tells me would make me feel violated. Like I'm asking those questions typically. Like, how's intimacy with your partner? Blah, 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 blah. Like, how do you wipe your butt? How do you get in and out of the shower? How do you get dressed? Does your partner help you get dressed? I'm asking weird questions. So like nothing my patient could tell me or there's no question that I can think of unless it was personal about me.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain thinking like.
But if it has to do with them, that's not violating like my consent. Like that's them asking me a question where they are genuinely seeking an answer so that I can help them.
Right. I think that's a big part too, is like the motive. Like the motive behind this question wasn't to make anyone feel uncomfortable. It was a genuine, legitimate question pertaining to having like a safe pregnancy.
I know. It just makes me feel bad. It makes me feel bad that like she felt so judged and like she didn't have a safe space at her doctor.
Yeah, that is, I can speak from experience on that one. Not feeling like your doctor is a safe place is such a bad feeling.
It's something I've struggled with my thyroid for years, trying to find a good doctor and not someone that like looks at me like I'm cuckoo. So it's just so frustrating, especially when it comes to like the female anatomy. It's tough enough trying to navigate. Like it was that time of the month recently and I was with a girlfriend and I was asking her like about questions about it because I have a very irregular cycle, if you will. Very irregular. We've talked a lot about this. And so it's like I'm almost 28 years old and I still have questions about my own like cycle and my own anatomy and my own like hormones. And so it's like you're going to these resources that you're told are there for you to support you and help you. And if they're making you feel shamed, then where do you go? Google? No. Your friend? Sure, but they're not professionals. No.
So I don't know.
I think that's like the most frustrating part about like working in the medical field. Like I saw this one guy and he was a Hispanic gentleman. And so there was already like a language barrier. And so I was working with him and I had a translator. Like I always use translation services because I wasn't going to do them an injustice of not having like the best care they could.
Yeah.
And so I always had the translator in and the doctor interrupts my session. And I had already known this man had a stroke. Like I had looked at the MRI. I already knew what was going on with him, but a doctor hadn't talked to him. So I can't tell him that. So the doctor walks in and goes, "Yep, so you've had a stroke." And he was like, "What?" And like was breaking down in tears, trying to ask these questions. And the doctor was like, "You should have eaten better. You should have done this. Did you take your blood pressure medication? You've had a stroke."
Wow.
And like left him like in tears and just like took off without answering his questions.
That's so fucked up.
And it's like this man had just like he just experienced a life-altering medical event.
Yeah.
And
has questions.
And you're going to do him a disservice like that?
Like he didn't bring in a translator?
No. And I had a translator going. He could have used my translator.
Wow.
He didn't even use my translator.
That's disgusting.
It's like and it was so sad. Like his stroke, he was pretty affected and like it was just me. And he was a bigger guy. And I always tried to do like stands with my patients just to see what level they were at. And he was bigger. And so I did a stand, just little me. And I got him up and he like didn't believe me that I could do it. He was like, no, we can't do it. We can't do it. I'm like, I got it.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. We're going to stand. It's going to be good.
Did he stand?
And he stood.
Wow.
And he literally looked at me. He's like, He started crying again. He's like,
No.
thank you.
Oh my gosh. No, my heart.
I know this is making me miss OT.
Yeah, this is sad.
Ah!
I was wondering if you miss OT as you were telling
I
the story.
do.
So that's kind of crazy.
I really do. I just like really like wholeheartedly wanted to invest like everything into the podcast. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy with my decision, but I definitely need to like get back.
That fix.
I need to get the fix. I need to get back into it in some way. And so
there's ways.
I don't know what that will be.
I have some ideas for you.
Okay, good. Okay, good.